We're officially changing up the formula. From now on, I'll be hitting you with each member of a collection before I prattle on and on about how important these characters are and where they fit in the game and blah blah blah. My YouTube overlords tell me that's good for optics or something. In other news, I must confess we're doing something special with this specific collection. Seeing as I simply have too many heroes to get through with this one, I'm going to be cutting this video right down the middle. Today we'll be taking a look at the first half of the collection and the latter half in another video coming out real soon. All in all, we're going to be going over my concepts for Vision, Falcon, Jane Foster, She-Hulk, Shuri, and America Chavez. This is the Next Avengers Collection. If you're unfamiliar with my videos in this format, I'll break it down real simple. I'll be going over each of my concepts for the heroes mentioned in order from Vanguard to Duelist to Strategist. Each concept will be preceded by my personal experiences with each hero and an 80-bit of comics history for all my nerds out there. If you don't want to hear me yap and yap about characters you're uninterested in, feel free to use the timestamp chapters to skip around, but remember that if you do skip, you're legally obligated to like and subscribe. Now let's get to the good stuff. Vision. He's no man, nor fully a machine. He's something else entirely. Artificial in most ways, but alive in all the important ones. He's more than a synthesis of mankind. He's the vision of its evolution. Like many moviegoers, I was introduced to Vision and most of the heroes in this collection through the MCU. His first moments of life are so emblematic of the struggles and themes he wrestles with. A dash of mad science, a bolt of lightning, an air of intrepid mystery, then a jaw-dropping realization of his power when he lifts Mjolnir like a tissue. Vision is wrapped in all kinds of ideological questions regarding what it means to be alive, and that makes him one of the most unique, engaging characters in the Marvel canon. Beyond that, Paul Bettany isn't given the credit he deserves in relation to the MCU. The man has been part of the universe from its very first film and undoubtedly has one of the best character arcs of its entire cast. From the sassy virtual assistant Jarvis,
Tell you what, throw a little Hot Rod Red in there.
Yes, that should help you keep a low profile.
to the Ultron-made Vision, Paul has become one of the greatest unsung heroes of the franchise, and I'm personally so excited to see him return to the verse in Vision Quest. This character deals with some heady ideas, so I chose to go the simple route with my concept for him in Rivals. Vision's primary attack, Solar Ray, shoots a narrow beam of energy from the gem on his brow. Its damage is moderate and consistent, but this attack is tied to an overheating meter that limits its usage just a little. Should Vision overheat, he'll move slower for a short time, but also emit a small area of burning energy before he cools off. I'll quickly touch on his passive ability, Simulacrum of Strategy, before moving on to his abilities. This passive lets Vision deal more damage the longer he attacks an enemy, essentially ramping his damage gradually if he applies pressure to a single target over and over. This works for any ability that does damage except for his ultimate. Vision's most interesting power is the ability to alter his physical density and mass to become stronger than diamond or as light as air. With that in mind, Vision's first ability, Density Shift Permeable, ushers us into the main quirk of his toolkit. Vision phases through states of matter to become weightless, allowing him to fly and become intangible. While intangible, he can move through any solid object, including terrain, and becomes completely immune to damage. On the flip side, he also becomes immune to receiving healing and can't deal damage himself. This ability would be on a longer cooldown and would last only a short while. The other side of this coin is where a lot of this toolkit finds its identity. Density Shift Invulnerable increases his mass to become a living wall, reducing incoming damage and giving him an all-new set of abilities to play with. This new form would last until he dies or until the player turns it off, so it has a lot more flexibility than its floaty counterpart. While invulnerable, Vision gains a new primary attack, Synthezoid Strike, and a new secondary, Heat Grapple. Synthezoid Strike is a 3-piece combo that deals chunky damage, while Heat Grapple takes hold of an enemy and carries them around while burning them with solar power. This new secondary would work almost like the Penance Stare ability I gave to my concept for Ghost Rider. Check out the Most Wanted collection to see it. Vision wouldn't be able to use Density Shift Permeable while this ability is active, so staying on top of which form he's in is crucial. Swapping between these two forms would make up the crux of Vision's rotation, not too dissimilar to Emma Frost's Diamond form, just with more longevity. That brings us to Vision's ultimate, Immovable Object. Vision pushes past his own limitations, causing himself to become heavier and heavier until he can't move an inch. He becomes truly impervious as he plants himself like a tree and lets the full force of the sun through his solar gem, unleashing a massive beam of white-hot power to decimate enemies. After this ultimate ends, Vision is unable to density shift for a short time, but his solar ray attack deals more damage without overheating. In my mind, Vision plays almost like Magneto, keeping himself on the point without getting in the enemy's face too much, until, of course, the enemy knocks on the payload's door and he's given the chance to really let loose. With his ability to push through big team fights without letting dive heroes pick him off, Viz would be a solid pick in a 2-tank comp alongside the likes of Captain America or Hulk. I'll cap off this concept with a team-up that links Vision with his estranged, vicious creator, Ultron. Synthetic symbiosis causes Vision to become immovable while in his invulnerable state, meaning he can't be bullied around by the likes of Wolverine or Invisible Woman. Ultron gains a passive, proxy server, that mutually benefits both characters. The Megalomaniac creates a feedback loop between them, buffing both of their primary stats when Viz has one of Ultron's drones on him. With the recent addition of Ultron's second drone, this would be a clutch passive that could seriously up Vision's survivability if left unchecked. Vision is a character I have a lot of fondness for, and not just because he improves my favorite scene in the entire MCU with a simple equation.
I have an equation.
Oh, this'll clear it up.
He's a very introspective hero with not enough love from mainstream audiences. I hope with his return in Vision Quest that we might see a new wave of love for this pseudo-android. Falcon. Sam friggin' Wilson. This high-flying patriot with a serious bird kink has always been my #1 favorite sidekick in all of the Marvel canon. Calling him a sidekick honestly feels like a disservice, but those humble origins as Captain America's right-winged man are just part of Sam's charm. Whether donning the red and white Falcon moniker or carrying the stars and stripes as Captain America, Sam Wilson is always there to uphold the tenets of justice and equality. Sam is poised as one of the most influential characters in Marvel when talking about social activism and the charged debate of patriotism versus nationalism. I'm especially partial to the theme of wrestling with what it means to be a black man defending the flag of a country with a grim history of prejudice and racism. Sam is firm on his beliefs, and I honestly don't think any of the other Captain America contemporaries come even close to touching how important he is when holding the mantle. Bucky takes up the identity when Steve Rogers is killed during Civil War, but that feels more like a coping mechanism and a way to honor his fallen brother. Then you've got John Walker, who falls for all the red-blooded lies about America, that its government can do no wrong and that the ends always justify the means. I'd mentioned Peggy Carter, but honestly thinking about Haley Atwell gets me all kinds of distracted. Anthony Mackie's portrayal of Sam in the MCU is without a doubt one of my favorites in the whole franchise. I could spend hours talking about Mackie's presence across the Captain America and Avengers films, but I'll spare you all the glaze and get on with the concept.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Falcon's primary attack, Falconer's Mark, fires a short burst from his dual submachine guns. This does decent damage and causes affected enemies to become tagged. This ties into his passive ability, Bird Brain, which causes the one and only Red Wing to descend from the skies to pester and damage enemies. This would occur frequently, but if multiple enemies are tagged, he'll only focus on one at a time, rotating through tags to spread the love. Falcon's secondary, Wing Play, causes him to dash forward and deploy his wings to pierce enemies. This attack is given different properties depending on Falcon's first ability, Soar and Hover. This ability toggles between a continuous flight mode and a stationary levitation. Aside from hitting the ability keybind, double jumping would automatically cause him to soar. While soaring, Falcon is constantly moving forward at crazy speed, and any collision with an object halts his motion and drops him instantly. While hovering, he remains in place in air for impressive height advantage and targeting. Hitting the jump key while stationary would drop Falcon to the ground for a quick escape. As I mentioned, Wing Play has a different attack pattern while in the air, causing him to burst forward in a spinning slash, pushing enemies aside and blending them up. Falcon's next ability, Aggressive Retreat, causes him to dash backwards while laying down a suppressive spray of bullets. This ability also causes him to dash upwards during his reversal, allowing the player to jump again to immediately soar. Falcon has one last ability that completely switches around his playstyle, Hawk Hook. This ability shoots a powerful tether out to snare up to 3 enemies. Each enemy is yanked toward Falcon, putting them directly in front of him. After the Hawk Hook is deployed, it temporarily changes how Wing Slice and Aggressive Retreat work. Falcon's new Wing Slice causes him to jet upward as his wings stab downward, flattening and piercing enemies for big damage. The new Aggressive Retreat engages his thrusters, making himself and his victims shoot up into the air before raining hell from above. He then drops them, knocking them prone as they hit the ground. Both abilities leave Falcon hovering, so good situational awareness can have players deal significant damage before peeling off to recuperate. This ability creates a whole new layer of complexity to this hero, letting him perform some crazy combo streaks with big damage gains. Sam's ultimate was one I felt a particular pressure with. I don't think I'm alone when I say I'm kind of over ultimates that let players pick an entire area of the map that either instantly kills everyone or makes it impossible to kill anyone. Instead, I wanted to dig into Falcon's strangest power for his ultimate, his ability to speak to all forms of birds and even avian adjacent creatures. Feather Bomb causes Falcon to call down flocks of birds to viciously rend enemies that are in Falcon's line of sight. Enemies that are being flocked suffer damage over time while also taking increased damage from all sources, making it a great ultimate to pair with other damage buffs and the like. This ultimate doesn't hinder Falcon's ability to soar, so he still has his full aerial superiority to keep enemies in his crosshairs while his beaked buddies pick off the other team. I picture Falcon playing as a dive-sustain hybrid, using his speed to get into and out of skirmishes while still being able to keep the pressure in a team fight. This extensive freedom of movement also lends itself to being a kind of support DPS, capable of swooping in to defend the squishy backline from enemy dives. Sam Wilson is one of the greatest comic characters ever created. Full stop. While I don't think I could ever live up to this icon, I hope my concept for his ability set does his high-flying antics justice. Hey, you're still here? Why not go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying my dulcet tones before we head into our final hero concept. Jane Foster. Jane friggin' Fost. Wait, I already did that. Natalie Portman is underrated, and she seems like a chill person to hang out with. In all honesty, my appreciation for this character is largely due to Portman's portrayal in the MCU. I was always super into the aesthetic of Mighty Thor, especially knowing that behind the hammer was none other than Thor's very own soulmate. But what really brought her to life for me was her depiction across the Thor films. Her absence from Ragnarok continues to be a sore spot for me, even if I'm likely in the minority there. Going from starry-eyed physicist to goddess of thunder was not an arc I ever expected from the MCU. You don't see me complaining, though. Her comics history is much more fuzzy to me. As far as I'm aware, the MCU was fairly faithful to her timeline from the books, give or take some tweaking and rearranging, plus the exclusion of a particular memory wipe. Uncool, Odin. The cancer, the taking of Thor's hammer, and the eventual knocking on Valhalla's door all seem pretty much on par, though. That being said, Dr. Foster is forever in my heart as one of the many I'm wearing my mentor/partner's superhero identity while they themselves are still using the same identity, heroes of Marvel. Let's get to it. Jane's primary, surging swing, lets her unleash fast arcs of punchy power on her enemies. After 2 successful strikes, Mjolnir becomes electrified, and every strike after places a myth charge on damaged enemies. Myth charges are part of Jane's passive, Electrifying Myth. These Asgardian runes cause affected enemies to take a small amount of greater damage from Jane, but their real value comes from their ability to arc lightning across enemies in a chain, as well as causing all of Jane's attacks to hit even harder. Myth charges also deal a little damage over time, just in case Jane isn't able to finish them off directly. The inspiration for Jane's next attack comes from the only Marvel movie I outright hate, Thor: Love and Thunder. This movie is so bad that if I allow myself more than a single line of narration to talk about it, this entire video will devolve into me cursing Taika Waititi's entire bloodline. The best part about the entire movie is Jane herself as the mighty Thor. In the film, she uses the shattered pieces of Mjolnir to fire Uru chunks like deadly little meteors before reassembling the hammer with the most satisfying sound in the world. Jane's secondary attack, Hammer Rupture, allows her to extend Mjolnir, letting it explode in a shotgun spray to greatly damage enemies. Jane has to wait until the pieces reassemble before she can continue attacking, but the shrapnel does damage going either direction to make up for lost APM. Jane's first ability, Liftoff, causes her to launch up into the air, slamming enemies in front of her upward as she ascends. Once airborne, she quickly targets an area below and hurtles toward it. She crashes down like a comet to explode with big damage. Jane's attack speed is greatly increased for a short time after she lands, and those struck by the impact immediately suffer a myth charge. Jane's next ability, the Wind-Up, allows her to thrust Mjolnir before her, spinning it at impossible speeds to continuously damage enemies that are unfortunate enough to feel its heft. Should Jane hit an enemy with a myth charge on them, the duration of this attack is extended. Using the Wind-Up temporarily unlocks the use of Jane's final ability, the Follow-Through. As the name suggests, Jane lets the weight of Mjolnir pull her through space to become an electric bullet. This ability would act as a kind of finisher, as it causes the myth charges of any enemies in its path to be consumed. Consumed charges erupt into merciless balls of lightning that greatly damage enemies and stun them momentarily. As a pseudo-Asgardian, Jane has access to one of the coolest forms of transportation in any fictional media ever, the Bifrost. More importantly, my make-pretend version of Jane's Mjolnir is capable of summoning the Bifrost, similar to the MCU version of Stormbreaker. Can you see where I'm going with this? Jane's ultimate, Einstein-Rosen Bridge, causes her to raise Mjolnir high in the sky as she enters a map-wide targeting mode as she selects her destination. Slamming Mjolnir into the ground, she ascends across the Rainbow Bridge to instantly transport herself into battle. Both her departure and arrival points are seared with an Asgardian brand that slows enemies and marks them with myth charges. While inside the brand, Jane hits harder and faster to make her unstoppable. More than unstoppable, she becomes mighty. Jane occupies a space that I've desperately wanted filled in Rivals since launch, and that's as a fast-paced zoom lightning brawler in the duelist role. Thor makes 110% sense in the Vanguard role. The dude screams, built like a brick house. Jane, being smaller and more agile, lends herself to a sleeker, more pointed playstyle like that of a DPS. With lots of dive potential and overall teamfight superiority, Dr. Foster could easily rank among the strongest duelists in the game. Oh, what? You thought I was going to mention Thor every other line in this segment and not write in a team-up? Get out of here. The OG GOT LMAO King becomes the anchor between these two in a team-up I've appropriately dubbed Thor Force. Thor's Lightning Realm bubble gains a longer duration while also dealing damage passively to enemies inside, while Jane is given the Shock Jock ability. This causes her to become wreathed in a thunderous shield that becomes stronger for every elimination she scores during its duration. Dropping enemies with a myth charge on them gives her an even bulkier shield to keep her in the fight. The Fantastic Four, the Guardians of the Galaxy, the X-Men. These are prestige superhero teams with clear identities and cohesive mission statements. Whether they're putting family first or screaming mutant and proud from the rooftops, it's easy to spot a member of one of these cliques. But then come the top dogs on the scene, a group of remarkable individuals who fight the battles we never could. They're Earth's mightiest heroes, the Avengers. They have no need for creeds or uniforms. All they need is their singular founding principle, to protect life wherever it's endangered. They're as dysfunctional as the X-Men, go on as many universe-trotting adventures as the Guardians, and are as loyal and as true of heart as the Fantastic Four. No matter who's headlining the miles-long roster of this team, the Avengers are the best in the league. That roster is precisely the focus of this collection. It's in no small part to the MCU that the Avengers have become an institution, and over the 18-year, Jesus Christ, run of films, they've introduced many lesser-known heroes as household names. We tackled some of those heroes today, but we still have a ways to go before this fresh-faced, crime-fighting super team is ready to defend Earth. This has been the first half of the New Avengers collection. Tune in soon for part 2, where we tackle She-Hulk, Shuri, and America Chavez. In the meantime, please consider liking, subscribing, and dropping a comment below on new heroes and villains you'd like to see in Rivals. Bye for now.